What's up, old school metal vinyl fanboys? Welcome back to the channel. Autopsy, seminal American death metal band, which we already covered in a previous episode, recorded like some 6 months ago. That was when I parted ways with both my original first pressings of Mental Funeral and Sever Survival. Now, bigger question, which you can probably tell from the title: do we really need Autopsy in the year of the Lord 2026? My answer is a sheer no to that question because, let's face it, this band has been releasing nothing but subpar stuff since they got back together. So, just like that, I decided to sell the second part of my Autopsy discography because guess what? At some point, I ended up owning something like 26 or 27 Autopsy records. And do I really need to have that many Autopsy albums in my flat? Answer is again a big no. So, just like that, we're gonna take a look at the stuff which I already sold on the left part of the screen, as opposed to the stuff which is still available on the right part of the screen. And let's find out if we really need Autopsy still in the scene these days. Starting off with a Headless Ritual LP, released in 2013. Pretty competent release. I have to say, Autopsy is one of those bands which I really loved in their early days. They were never my all-time favorite band, but I do appreciate and still I did appreciate and still appreciate a lot the early releases, meaning Mental Funeral, Server Survival, Acts of the Unspeakable, everything up to and including the Shit Fun LP. What released after the split up and after getting back together, not exactly my thing. And the Headless Ritual has the problem of many old school death metal bands, they just keep repeating themselves. The records they came up with after the reunion, they're not necessarily bad albums per se, but why would I need to listen to the Headless Ritual when I can listen to the Acts of the Unspeakable, which is a far, far, far better album? That's a very good question if you ask me. Visually speaking, pretty cool release, gatefold, courtesy of Peaceful Records. I'm not saying the band is not capable of writing decent riffs anymore. A good example of that is the Tourniquets, Hacksaws and Grace from 1 year later. They do still have their own moments. Absolutely love the Autopsy track, the last one on this album. Other than that, really don't know what to think about this album. I saw the band live around the time of this album's release. That was, I think, at Partisan Festival in Germany some 8 to 9 years ago. Again, one of those releases which don't really change your life. If you're a fan of the band, you will like it. Personally, I don't necessarily like the band when they slow down the tempo. I think they work much better when they are playing their up-tempo songs. But I mean, it is what it is. The Skull Grinder mini LP, when this was released, I saw the cover artwork. I said, okay, I have to buy this thing because the cover artwork, look at it, absolutely brilliant. It's a gem. And I was tempted to keep this record in the collection just because of the sick cover artwork. Sadly enough, the artwork is also the only good redeeming aspect about this release. Everything else is kind of like subpar and hardly something I will ever play much in the future. So just like that, sold. Last record which has been sold is the All Tomorrow's Funerals double LP. This is actually a compilation double LP, which makes sense if you don't own the original Fiend for Blood and Retribution for the Dead mini LPs, which are now incredibly hard to find in their original editions. These are all repressed on this compilation. I don't really see the point of having the Tomb Within, which is the first release the band came up with after the reunion. Since it's still readily available, it was available back at the time of this re-release. There is some double 7 inches EP re-release, some songs which the band recorded just for this release, some Black Sabbath cover or whatever. I mean, again, it makes sense if you don't own this stuff on their original versions, but other than that, a pretty redundant release. So again, this is the stuff which has already been sold. Moving on to what is still available, this is probably the rarest Autopsy release out there. It's a bootleg released in 1992, including a show recorded in 1991, actually 1 year earlier, called Live from the Grave. I paid quite a lot to secure a copy. It's not really an album which you see up for grabs every day, so if you're into the band, if you want to obtain a really nice copy, you have the chance to get it. Primitive cover art, as you can tell. Don't expect too much from the song quality of it, but it's a nice collector's item. Much like the album that follows, Rotting Death, courtesy of Headache Records. Now, Headache Records, I should probably dedicate a whole video to this label. Raise your hand if you know who is actually hiding, who was hiding actually, it's better said, behind this label. It was none else than Nuclear Blast Records, because oddly enough, this label was bootlegging quite a lot of stuff in the early 90s. Especially bands assigned to Airrake Records and Peacefield Productions. They did release several Carcass live LPs, as well as a couple of Morbid Danger releases. This is a pretty poor release, truth be told. You can tell the artwork has been blatantly stolen from the Sever Survival album. The logo has been probably, cut off and glued to the cover artwork. It's a pretty poor release. Again, if you're an Autopsy die-hard fanboy, you probably want to have it in your collection. The Tomb Within, as I said before, it's the first album they released after the reunion. They disbanded in the mid-90s, got back together some 15 years later. I mean, when I saw this LP, I was kind of like, in a way, I was mildly interested in it, because it was, of course, cool to have, old school bands back into the arena. At the same time, the cover artwork is some very, very poorly photoshopped piece of shit. Not exactly the kind of old school things my heart beats for. Musically speaking, again, one of those records which really don't change anything in your life. Do I really need to listen to this kind of stuff when Autopsy released the far better outputs in the past? Again, you ask yourself that question. Awakened by Gore, oh my goodness, cool release by my all-time favorite label, Nuclear Wanker, now from the US. Now, truth be told, gotta give the devil his due. This compilation of all Autopsy demo tapes is pretty well put together. It's released on a noble-looking gatefold release, glossy cardboard. So, I mean, let's give the man some credit. There's even a poster included. This is very well put together. Sound quality is actually pretty decent. So if you don't own this old Autopsy stuff, you might want to secure a copy of this album. Macabre Eternal. This is, I think, the first full-length release which the band put out after getting back together. Again, an album whose cover artwork I absolutely love. Look at it again. This is so cool. Terrific. Absolutely beautiful work of art. Unfortunately, it's, again, just like in the case of the Skull Grinder mini LP, pretty much the only redeeming quality about this release. It's way too long for my taste. I have this special theory, which is like every really good death metal album should not be longer than 40 minutes tops. I don't really remember how much this one clocks to, but I think it's well over 50 minutes, which is just where I get bored after a while. So, I mean, you decide for yourself. Again, the cover artwork, top notch. The music itself, kind of forgettable. Moving on, the next one we have is the Ridden with Disease demo tape. It's a vinyl release of the demo tape. My goodness, how many times did they release this album? It exists in so many different editions. This is the very first pressing, released by Vinyl Collectors from the Netherlands, which was actually a sub-label owned by Hammerheart Records. I don't think they actually bother remastering the demo tape. It sounds kind of like one of those old tapes from back in the day. Cover art, as you can tell, very primitive. It's a cool release for what it is. It's not particularly rare. I mean, it is rare now that I think about it. I'm not really sure how much am I charging for it. I should double check my list, but if you're willing to obtain a copy, then you have a chance to. Very last Autopsy release, which I actually bothered acquiring. After this one, I kind of gave up on the band. Is the Puncturing the Grotesque mini LP. I love the first two songs on this release. They have a very, very nice punkish vibe. Everything else, again, works like a sleeping pill to me. So that's pretty much it, all I have for sale by the band. And as usual, get in touch if you're willing to obtain any of the pieces you're seeing right now. Feel free to let me know down in the comments if you share my views concerning this band. Do you think there's still room for Autopsy in the year of the Lord 2026? Or should they just retire and enjoy watching hockey on TV? Which is my answer to that question. Let me know down in the comments. And till the next time, as usual, keep it loud and heavy.